Hello and welcome to Mountain Valley Today. This is a weekly show we're going to have, and we're going to be talking about different things coming up in DeKalb County and Jackson County. And we hope you'll tune in each Thursday evening at 7:30 on Farmers Television. Also, you can listen to us at 1400 AM WFPA, and that'll be on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. And WVSM, that's 1500 AM in Rainsville, Alabama at 7 a.m. in the morning. We're also on Mountain Valley's website, and that's mountainvalleynewspaper.com. Today, we have a couple of special guests with us today. First, we have Chad Doss, and Chad is the developer of Lockdown. And with our uncertain times and lots of school shootings and dangerous situations, nothing's more important than the safety of our children. So Chad, welcome to our show today, and why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about the program and how its inception came around.
Okay, well first of all, I appreciate you having me on. Lockdown is a emergency communication system that schools use to notify staff members and teachers and whatnot in the event of a crisis, and that can be anything from an intruder, an evacuation for a fire, anything like that. It's also got a medical feature. Medical alert feature. So it's just a system that speeds up communication for first responders, coming into a situation so they know what's going on as they're arriving on scene. It's a way for staff members to be notified in a matter of seconds versus, a phone tree or what's currently happening in most schools, red or green cards and windows. This is using devices teachers already have and what they're familiar with, and it's only taking seconds to notify everybody. So,
well, that sounds great. We're going to learn some more about that. But this initiative is going to be rolled out into 4 trials school systems: DeKalb County, Fort Payne City, Jackson County, and Madison County. And as a public school teacher and been teaching for 32 years, I know sometimes when something happens and we need to lock down the school or get children to a safe place, sometimes it's very difficult to get everybody notified. So tell us a little bit about how this program came into be and its inception back in Missouri, I believe.
Yeah, we've got a small footprint back in Missouri, a few schools in Oklahoma and Kansas, and we actually, just to put it all out there, we actually just signed up 43 schools up in Michigan. I think thanks to you guys, sharing and spreading the word. But we're trying to just, be proactive versus reactive right now with what's going on. So the way it came about was it's been around for about 4 years, and I'm one of the original developers. And I've got 3 partners back home that, when you call us, you get us. We actually work on it and everything. But the way it came about was we had a school district back home that they ran a drill, and it took about 25 minutes to account for a school that was 9 through 12, and they had roughly about 1,200 kids and about 150 staff members. And they basically just came over the intercom and said, this is an intruder drill and follow procedures. So using their procedures of the red or green cards and iMessage and iChat, it took about 25 minutes, and law enforcement at 25 minutes said, hey, if you don't know where everybody's at this point, we've got to figure something else out. Because at that point, they've been standing outside for 15 minutes, if not longer. So being a geek, being a self-proclaimed nerd, I strive, and being a professional development coach and working with teachers, I want to make things as efficient as possible. So I saw the need, and I worked with who needed that information, being the administrators and law enforcement, and decided that they needed to know if the teacher had all their kids, if they had any visitors, and then additional info. So that's what 911 would want to know if there was an intruder in a building during a crisis. So we kind of just put those questions on a web page, and we put them in a very friendly web app, and just kind of ran with it. So about 2 weeks later, with very little learning curve, that same building, same high school, ran a drill, 1,200 kids, 150 staff members, and we were able to notify everybody with Lockdown in a matter of 10 to 15 seconds. Hey, there's a threat. And then in about it was 3 minutes and 47 seconds, we were able to account for 1,200 kids, 150 staff members. Responding law enforcement is about 4 to 6 minutes. So with all that information landing in one spot, those first responders have that information before they even get to the scene. So it obviously proved itself, and I'm happy to kind of be a pioneer of it, if you will. And, it works, and it's very efficient.
Well, we're thankful that we're part of the pilot program here in DeKalb County. Also, it's amazing how much time you were able to shave off the lockdown when they were trying to do it the old-fashioned way, so to speak. And now with technology today, we're so excited the things we can do so much faster and so much easier. Now, I know one of the things you're going to be hearing from the people in the community is, well, we hear the internet so bad and all that kind of stuff at our schools, and the kids are having trouble logging on. So tell me how that's going to help with your system of being a cloud version that you were talking about to me earlier.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is cloud-based. So what's nice is it doesn't matter if a district is, one-to-one, meaning every student has a device. It doesn't matter if they're BYOD, which is bring your own device. It doesn't matter what device the teacher or staff member is using. It's just a website that they go to log in. They log in with their school email, which they use all the time. Mm-hmm. It's private to them, it's private to the district. But this is nice because there's no proprietary equipment to be updated. They can be in the middle of an update system network-wide, and lockdown still exists at its own website. It doesn't matter if, did you say you had a dinosaur phone? Or you have a?
I have an Apple phone.
You've updated.
Yeah, I've
okay.
updated.
Just checking. Just checking. But it doesn't matter if they have a phone that's a little bit aged. They're still going to get that text message, and they can run to any computer, any device in the room. Even the kids that say they don't have their phones on them, in the event of a crisis, a teacher can take that phone and check in. They can get notified that way. But being cloud-based with the internet here in this area, Representative Haynes and Senator Livingston actually. One of them been doing a lot of legwork for us, if not both, and Representative Ledbetter as well. They called Verizon and are actually working with Verizon to put boosters in the buildings, cell phone boosters. And I think those are $400 or $500 a piece, and I think you guys have got them down to like $150.
That's right.
So that's awesome. So we appreciate the work there and the work on Verizon's part as well. But as far as the web goes, where I was at this morning in in Fort Payne, their network guy actually showed up while I was there, and they were looking at revamping the network. And it's kind of new to this area with all the kids having devices.
Right.
But with that said, it's kind of working hand in hand with lockdown as you guys update your network.
Right.
It's just gonna speed it up. So.
Well, at this time, let's bring in Senator Livingston. He's going to bring some information about the plan for this particular program, maybe statewide in the near future. Senator Livingston?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for having me on also. I'd like to go back and say that this did come from Representative Haynes, and I think Chad was doing a presentation in Charleston at the Southern Legislative Conference this summer, and Representative Haynes represents Jackson County and I think the box of Powell in DeKalb County saw the presentation, and being a retired firefighter, professional firefighter, he realized the value of what this was, and he made contact with Chad, and Chad was kind enough to come out and start this process through DeKalb and Jackson and Madison counties. We're really glad to have him here. And to piggyback a little bit on what he said, the test that I've been a part of is you're sitting there, and he's gone through what's going to happen, and he's got the computer screen pulled up there in front of you, and he initiates the lockdown, and it's just the phones are going off in the room with the administrators just almost instantly. Mm-hmm. And it's what I've seen has been very successful. The teachers have an opportunity to log in, and there's a colored screen that tells them that they're not, that they haven't responded, and if they respond back to a very positive about having all their students and everything's okay, they go to a green screen. It's all very user friendly, so right. We're excited about that. So what we intend to do when we go back into this next legislative session is to pitch this into the education budget. Chad has said he can do this in the line of about 25 cents a student and administrator across the state. When we originally thought that, and when I heard the first process, I thought the first conversation about it, I was thinking of millions of dollars to go across statewide. But yes, this is something that's going to be a couple $100,000 to go across the state, and it is proactive. It is not reactive, and if it saves one child's life, Lord forbid we have something like this happen, but if it saves one child's life, it's more than paid for itself for an administrator's life. So.
Oh yes, that is correct.
But we'll work this into the education budget. in the House and then bring it upstairs to the Senate's way we plan to do that, to be perfectly honest with you, and look forward to it.
Well, we certainly do appreciate you working with Chad and getting it in our area, and we're very fortunate to be part of the pilot program. Now, I know you made a presentation to several schools, and I believe we were talking earlier that once you sit down, the teachers are getting very excited about the program.
Well, what it is right now teachers, they're not doing anything wrong. It's kind of the way things have changed, and as we talked about, when you were teaching and I was a student, I never worried about stuff like this. To be frank, I worried about my truck getting keyed or something. You never had to worry about this. And being a dad now, I think about it every morning, like we all do. And so I am happy to give something that teachers look at this like it's another means of communication. It's a life-saving device, if you will. We don't want to put it in front of them getting to safety. It's just another layer in their communication system. And what it allows them to do is, the three procedures now are run, hide, fight, which is just basically just situational awareness. But it allows the teachers to do one of those three things, but also let their administrators and law enforcement know where they are and what help they need. And, I get feedback like they're happy to have that tool. It's something that's very user-friendly. It's easy to understand, and we're definitely in a technology forward.
And Representative Haynes made comment to the fact that, the fireman is much happier to do a turnaround to a false alarm than have to go on in to put a fire out or into an emergency situation. So.
One of the things I liked about it, we have a couple of options, 4 or 5 to be exact. One is a lockdown, the second is evacuate, and those are for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody gets notification. But also, if you're a coach of some kind, or you have a medical emergency, or there's an alert, you can actually send immediate notification to a principal, an SRO, and then there's some other things about severe weather. But one good thing you were sharing with me earlier is that if one school, say Plainview High School, goes in lockdown, all the administrators in the system get the same notification. Would you elaborate just a little bit on that so that people understand the reasoning behind that?
Sure. The way we look at it is, and I'm new to this area and how the school districts are broke down by county versus city. So we had this dynamic of some of these schools are an hour and a half apart, an hour apart, but it doesn't change the fact that there's an emergency in their district. So you wind up with a scenario where even though an elementary school is 45 minutes from a high school, little brother or little sister may go over there. So you're going to have parents getting word of an emergency here and wanting to go to the elementary school and pick up a child. So the way it works is when the teacher hits lockdown or evacuate, it actually goes district-wide on an administrator level. And then at least those principals in every building can decide, okay, we're going to have some phone calls from this. We're going to have a state of emergency. Schools nowadays, and all the schools I've been in the counties down here, they really exist in a soft lockdown all the time. They're very secure, but it's what if they need to be extra secure for a little bit. This allows them to get that notification out just as quick.
Yes.
We've had similar situations in districts back home and even up north where, it was 7:05 in the morning. Well, everybody's rushing around. Nobody's probably really at their office or desk yet. So how do you let everybody know? I mean, even if you do call 911 and say, we've got an emergency at the high school, with this system, they can push out a notification district-wide that don't go to the high school. Law enforcement is present. Please go to this school or that school. Another dynamic of that I was sharing with you is if you've got buses with kids on them already that early in the morning, they can just redirect those kids to a school that's 45 minutes away that's safe. And then you can let parents know, hey, you can come pick your kids up here or there. So.
And tell us a little bit more about the medical alert. When, say, a coach, I believe you were talking to one today that's 200 yards away from the nurse, and if you can get a hold of the nurse, how this will help get them assistance to an emergency they may have on an athletic field.
Sure. Most coaches, if not all of them, are CPR trained. They know how to use the AED devices and, CPI, the crisis intervention class that they can take. But we had a coach mention to us, hey, I'm on the football field a lot with my weights class or my PE class, or even in an elementary setting. The kid's medical history is on file somewhere, but that doesn't mean the coach and every single teacher knows it. So what this allows them to do, instead of locking down the whole building or evacuating, they also have a medical feature where they can just hit a medical button and it sends a text message to the right people that know CPR and your AED devices and your school nurse and an SRO, just in case that chain needs to start, that chain of communication. So very helpful. And I'm very careful with my audience, but what I'll make a note too is the alert feature. We've had it used for fights where maybe a female student or a female staff member was not capable of stopping an altercation, or it may have been a parent that just wandered down the wrong hallway and needed to be addressed. But instead of locking down the whole building, you can just get an administrator's attention to come handle that.
And the other thing I liked about it from the teacher standpoint is the short videos to refresh your memory on what they're for. Sometimes in the training, teachers feel like they're overwhelmed with all of the proper procedures. So tell a little bit about that for the people and the teachers and the staff, how easy that is to just refresh with just a short video.
Sure. Yeah, after we do training at the beginning of the year, we usually come into a district or they can get all the information online, but we train 1 or 2 people in the district that help train the rest of the district. But if you need a refresher or whatnot, I know from being in professional development and working with the teachers, you've got about, how long is passing period? 4 minutes?
Yeah.
You've got a teacher's attention for about that long, with all due respect. And I know that if it doesn't work or there's any kind of hiccup, they're not going to use it, especially in a state of emergency.
Right.
So the follow-up videos we have of, how to reset my password or what does this screen look like if I click this button, those videos are just a short 2 minutes, just kind of a refresher. And, we host those internally, not to get into too many specifics, but we host those internally so the schools always have access to them and, just very user-friendly.
That was one of the things I liked in talking to you earlier, is that you can do an app or it's web-based, all kinds of ways to do the same thing. And sometimes we run into problems when there's just one way to get somewhere.
Right.
And we certainly do appreciate that. I think it's going to be a great tool. Senator Livingston, I'm going to come back to you. What do you think do you think there'll be any hurdles to overcome as you're presenting this to the legislature, or do you think that maybe in a good scenario and some maybe these pilot programs will assist overcoming some hurdles maybe in the future?
Anytime you're asking for money, there's going to be hurdles to overcome in the legislature, but we're expecting great things out of these pilot programs, and if they do what we think they're going to do, this should be an easy sell. It's proactive as opposed to being reactive, and again, Lord forbid this ever taking place in one of our schools, but if it does, we have the device in place to take care of something. So.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful idea and a wonderful plan. And Chad, if you will, tell us maybe just a tad bit more about some of your experiences. I know you've traveled around the country. You're just finding I know we talked about price, and I think that's, when you talk about 25 cents per child across the state of Alabama, that's the best investment any of us can make. But what kind of responses are you seeing? Have there been some things you've had to tweak, or maybe you didn't understand at the beginning you've added to the program, or is it pretty much set the way that it is?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I think things have to adapt, if they're going to be successful for long term. And it's not so much a successful thing here as it is just efficient. We started off locally in Joplin, Missouri, and chose a few select districts around there to pilot it for us. And they're now all subscribers. But the reason we did that is because I know the most efficient feedback and the most effective feedback I'm going to get is from teachers. This doesn't work. I don't want to click.
They're going to tell you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you.
I don't want to click 4 times to let you know there's a lockdown. So that never happened, by the way. But
That's good.
It's just, this button needs to do this button needs to do that, and make the questions simpler, feedback like that. So what drives it and what really helps is the feedback from the teachers and the feedback from 911 on their side of it. And it's really what sets us apart, if you will, other than price. is something that anybody can use, and it adapts with them, and if they've got feedback that makes it more efficient, we do that. Like, we didn't have the severe weather feature for a long time. And I know that's strange to say, being from Joplin, Missouri, but our location center, where we're located, it comes from an administrative level when there's severe weather. So we just kind of step back because we're all a little storm sensitive, if you will.
Right.
But what we have the ability to do now is an administrator can kind of send out an alert that's just kind of a roll call versus a teacher having to worry about, the power's out, what's going on. It's more of just a notification. So, that feedback, getting answers from teachers, and, I went and saw the memorial over at Plainview today. And I just take that to heart. Teachers are teachers and staff members in schools, period. They're underpaid.
Well, thank you. You talked to Sen
No,
Livingston about that.
But it is what it is. You all are underpaid heroes. So are our first responders on all accounts.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
I'm honored to be a part of that and then be helping with that. I went to lunch with an SRO, and he's thanking me for this, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine what you go through on a daily, and you're thanking me for something that I learned playing video games as a kid.
Well, I'm glad you were a geeky guy, and you came up with a program, but you saw there was a need, and you came up with a way to solve that problem, to help not just only your system or your area, but you've been able to expand it across, hopefully across the state of Alabama. One thing we were talking about was substitutes. Would you talk about that just a little bit, and then I want to ask you a question about students.
Yeah, the substitute thing was, again, something we learned to adapt with. ASOP is a substitute program that schedules subs, and teachers use it, and they're familiar with it. And what we were up against is, how do you account for a sub during an emergency? So we basically just created every district has a set of buildings, the elementary, junior high, middle school, high school, whatever. What districts have the ability to do is create a subcategory, a substitute category. So they can enroll their substitutes, and on a daily basis, they can deactivate the teacher that's homesick, or they can enroll the substitutes that's there for that day.
That's amazing.
So you wind up with 140 substitutes also having access to 911.
Okay.
In the particular district.
Well, one more question I wanted to ask you about. Tell the audience why you definitely don't send those messages to students. Why it's to the staff and the teachers in the building in the district.
Well, we certainly, and with all due respect, we don't want to train a threat. And unfortunately, that's kind of the norm when you look at statistics. You don't want to train a threat, so we leave students out of it. Also from the standpoint of, it is much more efficient for a teacher to say, I have all 25 of my kids, versus waiting on 25 kids to respond that may or may not. You also have the obstacle of, like you said, the network.
Yes.
Well, if we've got one person accounting for 25 in a class, it keeps that 25 traffic off the network.
Right.
So it just speeds it up that much more. And kids, let's be honest, they're kids. I was. I don't know if...
It was a long time ago for me, but yeah, I was one too. But Senator Livingston, I'll throw it back to you, and I think upgrading with Verizon, trying to get those school systems upgraded with technology to be able to have better cell reception in case, we were talking earlier that if the teacher was in a hurry and left her phone over at her desk, you don't want her to walk in front of a couple of open windows, to go, you can use the child's device or the computer, whatever. But has that been a hurdle to work with the phone companies to help upgrade those?
I haven't been actively involved in that. That's something that Representative Haynes and Ledbetter have done in reaching out and touching them. But they've been very proactive in coming back into the school system and helping put these boosters in. And like you said earlier, they reduced the cost on them substantially. So
Yes.
I have to give all the accolades to these two gentlemen who have taken care of that. So they've been working with Chad pretty exclusively, as we think this is a wonderful tool for not only the school systems and the administrators, but the teachers that'll save lives in the future.
Well, I think so too. There are many layers to safety that we have in our school systems with crisis plans and all kinds of things that are already being done, but there always is a great way to add another layer to that. And Chad, we're so thankful that you have come and been brought to our area. Thank you for Representative Haynes, and that he would come and share that knowledge of what he heard at a conference. And that's really how it all comes around for us to be able to use something like this in our area. Is there any final words you'd like to say to the audience today about the program? Any questions that they may have?
No, from a dad's point of view, even being an owner, I hope and pray nobody ever uses this except for the drills. You know, that's how I honestly feel about it, and my partners as well. And that's why we've priced it accordingly. We spoke with an educator earlier who is looking at putting door locks on all of his doors and fireproof doors, and it's very, very expensive.
Yes.
And I don't want any district to have to pass on one form of safety just because this is expensive or that's not.
Right.
You know, I think safety should be kind of an all-inclusive thing. So,
I think so too. Senator Livingston, any final words you'd like to bring to us today?
I would encourage the parents that are out there listening to us today to reach out to their teachers and let them explain it to them and how simple it is, and also encourage them to encourage our legislators, not only the ones in this district, but others that they know across the state.
Mm-hmm.
What a great tool this is, and being again, proactive as opposed to reactive. This is something that will, I've said this 3 times now, this is something that will has the potential to save someone's life.
And what better investment for 25 cents per?
25 cents a student across the state. So reach out and have an administrator or a teacher explain this device or this lockdown system to you, and send out some good recommendations, because we'll need a little help come February to get this taken care of.
I think so too. And Chad, we certainly appreciate you coming all the way from Missouri to do the presentations. I ran into a teacher just this afternoon saying that she had seen your presentation, was very impressed with you. I don't think I shared that with you earlier, and I think that speaks very highly about your program and your representation, but also the ease with which the school employees and staff members will be able to use this system called Lockdown, and that's LOKDOWN. I believe that's at lockdown.org.
lockdown.org.
If someone wanted to go look at that. But it is a safety tool, and we're thankful for our legislative delegation bringing this to DeKalb County and a couple of other systems in North Alabama. And we have no problem being the pilot. And we are excited about the opportunity you bring to us, and we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Senator Livingston, for all you're doing.
And we appreciate Chad coming in from Missouri and sharing his time with us.
And you're watching Mountain Valley Today, and we're so glad that you're with us, and hope you'll tune in each week as we bring another interesting activities going on in Jackson and DeKalb counties.